The chair recognizes the gentleman from California.
Thank you. I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
Is recognized.
On May 24th, the Trump administration notified Congress that it was declaring a so-called emergency to bypass congressional review of 22 arms sales to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. I'm offering this amendment because there is no emergency. Just a conflict in Yemen that has killed thousands of civilians with U.S.-made weapons and a Congress that is tired of being complicit. That is why we voted last month to pass bipartisan bicameral resolutions to end U.S. support for the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen. But despite that clear signal from Congress, the administration decided to use an emergency power to go around us and push through an unpopular arms package that would likely be used in that conflict. That package includes an unprecedented proposal to move production of precision-guided munitions to Saudi Arabia, essentially outsourcing jobs to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Simply put, this is an egregious abuse of the emergency authority we gave the executive and a direct affront to our institution. To add insult to injury, the arms in question aren't even available to be exported. As Assistant Secretary of State for Political Affairs Clark Cooper testified last week, most of these weapon systems will not be ready for months, if not potentially years. Our arms sale process was designed to include congressional review specifically to ensure that each case serves U.S. interests. If the administration believes that these sales can stand on the merits, they should make their case to Congress. Until they do, we must use the power of the purse and every other avenue to block them. I also want to thank Chairman Wisklowski for his leadership and his support as well. And I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves the gentleman. What purpose does the gentleman from California?
Madam Chair, I rise in opposition to the amendment.
Recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, at the outset, it should be clear there is no country that is more hostile to the interests of the United States and our allies, especially Israel, than Iran. In fact, as we debate this bill, the U.S. and our partners in the region are under serious threat from Iran and its proxies. As our commander of the U.S. Central Command, General Frank McKenzie, said recently, the Iranian threat remains imminent. Just last week, Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces used a type of magnetic mine, a limpet mine, to attack Japanese and Norwegian oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. In addition to this threat to international freedom of navigation and commerce, Iran's Houthi proxies have launched sustained attacks on airports and other infrastructure targets within Saudi Arabia. In this context, it's clearly in the national interest of the United States to ensure that our partners in the region have capabilities they need to counter a hostile Iran. The sweeping scope of this amendment, however, seeks to block all 22 of these arms sales instead of those few that may be of particular concern. For example, it would attempt to prevent the transfer of precision-guided munitions to our ally Jordan, as well as a number of other seemingly non-controversial cases. Madam Chair, we need to work with our partners in the region to accomplish common objectives on our counterterrorism and deterring Iran, including through timely U.S. defense transfers. Arbitrarily stopping a large number of arms sales, regardless of their sensitivity, will hinder the ability of our combatant commander to accomplish those goals. It's also to undermine the reputation of the United States as a reliable security partner and provide opportunities for China or Russia to erode U.S. influence in the region. I want to acknowledge that all of us are deeply concerned with the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Yemen. I support the efforts of the executive branch to work with the UN Special Envoy toward a political resolution to this conflict. It's also unfortunate that the Department of State decided to utilize an emergency waiver authority on the arms sales that are the subject of this amendment. Congressional oversight over arms transfers is an important responsibility, and it would have been best had these sensitive matters been handled through the traditional consultative process. But this is not the appropriate vehicle to vindicate those congressional prerogatives. That responsibility rests with the Foreign Affairs and Foreign Relations Committees, and not in this bill. Accordingly, I oppose this amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from California, Mr. Calvert, reserves. The gentleman from California.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments of the gentleman from California. I simply note that the issue here is not whether we should sell arms to our allies, such as Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. The issue is whether Congress should have a role, or are we going to be completely bypassed by this administration? And that's all this amendment seeks to do, to have Congress take a role in the way we've always taken a role in arms sales. And with that, I'd like to yield